Hi, everybody. I think many of you know me, and I apologize that I will be repeating a little bit of my story um, for those of you who've heard it before. So our story began when, 11 years ago, when I took my 7th grader to the dermatologist for acne treatment. And she was put on a long-term antibiotic and called doxycycline. 4 months later, she was in the hospital with severe inflammation, systemic inflammation. She was ultimately diagnosed with severe ulcerative colitis. So for the next 2 years, we tried every ulcerative colitis medication that was available, all with different side effects: skin rashes, pancreatitis, vomiting in the middle of the night, more bloody stools, cramping. Nothing worked. So finally, the gastroenterologist recommended that we consider a colectomy. We changed doctors. So then she quietly dealt with her disease. She would have to run from the classroom or off the field with diarrhea. She would sometimes not make it. She would have to throw clothes away, and she kind of withdrew into herself. She didn't have any friends. She didn't want to talk to anybody about this. So anyway, at that time, she was my height, 5'5", but only 88 pounds, and I weigh 120. But she became more determined than ever to achieve her goals. She decided she wanted to go to Stanford, and she wanted to play on their top lacrosse team, their top rated. She became the top academic student in her high school, and she became the top lacrosse player in Arizona, which was tough given her skinny size. She went to the Stanford lacrosse camp 5 times, and each time was told she was just too small to be a Division I athlete. So then just before 10th grade, the doctors decided to try a different ulcerative colitis medicine, and they took liver tests and blood tests, and they found that her liver enzymes were highly elevated. So they did a liver biopsy and gave us the terrifying diagnosis of primary sclerosing cholangitis, which Kobe knows much about. And this disease it progresses to liver failure within 10 to 12 years, and it has no treatment or cure. So her doctor told her that sports were out of the question and that she needed to just, the symptoms along the way to liver failure would be debilitating. I of course, went into denial. I still am. But then I dove into research. And I found an article in a Stanford magazine about a Stanford doctor who had been treating children with this disease with off-label with an existing generic drug, which doesn't mean it's not expensive. Her drug, we immediately got her on it. Her drug retail value is originally was about $15,000 a month. And this is one of the reasons why there's a cost of care. Even though it's a generic drug, patients can't afford it if they don't have insurance. So we fortunately had insurance, and our insurance paid for it. It's now down to about $8,500 a month. But within a year, she had gained 35 pounds, and she had a normal colon and a normal liver. She applied to Stanford Early Action, got in, walked onto the team, and became one of the top players on the Stanford lacrosse team. So she just graduated with a degree in biology and is now going on for her master's degree in microbiology. But her journey is not without bumps. She still takes 390 pills a month and gets annual colonoscopies and gets annual MRCPs. And just recently we had a big bump in the road where all of a sudden all of her liver enzymes escalated, and she started to get diarrhea. And so after a 5-week discovery, we learned that the pharma company that makes the drug had changed manufacturing locations. And they claim that nothing changed with the drug, but something changed with the drug. So what we started to do is we started to open the capsules. We tried everything. We tried doubling her dose, and that didn't work. Then we tried opening the capsules, and lo and behold, within 2 weeks, everything was normal again. So now I face the problem of other patients. I don't want to create a panic in the market. There are patients who have been able to get on this drug, but I don't want to say something that's not true. We don't know if it's something that was within her or something with the drug. But in any event, she also has physical injuries. In addition to her liver disease, she had physical injuries from lacrosse, and that's, of course, kind of her own doing, but she tore both of her hamstrings. Well, Stanford recently published an article about her. They found out about her disease and decided, oh my gosh, we didn't know anything about this for 4 years, and they published a story about her called My Indomitable Spirit. And this is, I don't know that I can read this, so maybe I can ask you to read this. This is a quote that well, maybe I'll try it, and then I'll turn it over to you. Okay, so she wrote, this is a quote from the story that she said, tendinitis, talking about her 2 torn hamstrings, is not life-threatening. It doesn't make my mom cry and doesn't require me to remove my organs. But that doesn't mean it isn't a mental test, too. My spirit is still being challenged, but if it's never challenged, I wouldn't be able to say it's indomitable. When you're told that you can't do something, it makes doing it that much more special. I wouldn't be where I am today without the inner strength that I began to learn when I was 3 years old in Taekwondo. I'm grateful for the things that I can control, and I know that overcoming an obstacle just means that I'll meet another. Physical strength can only get me so far, but with an indomitable spirit, there'll always be a way. So my work as an advocate only began when I found treatment for her. My first goal is to get this treatment accepted and available to all patients because they literally have no option. There is nothing out there for them, and patients are desperate to try this. It doesn't work for every patient with PSC, but it works for most of them, and yet doctors are completely ignorant. So the cost of not caring, not understanding this treatment to our medical profession is huge. Doctors don't understand it. They don't have time to do their own research. So what I did is I joined NPAF, and NPAF has given me the strength and the courage to go forward. I published 3 papers with Mayo Clinic and Stanford doctors, UCLA, and one from Texas Children's. And I wrote several grant applications because you need data to get grants, and you need grants to get data. So it's kind of a catch-22. One of my grant applications was funded by the FDA under the Orphan Drug Act, and it's proceeding right now with Mayo Clinic. So unfortunately, it's an adult trial. Fortunately, it was funded. Unfortunately, it's just adults. It doesn't include children who are the best responders. But at least I have raised, one of the other applications was with 13 pediatric medical institutions, and I'm hopeful that we can get that through the NIH, funded actually by the NIH. My second goal is to take the data from this clinical study and cure this disease, because I think we're going to be able to understand a lot more about why this treatment works and move forward in understanding how we can cure this disease. Thank you.